We wanted to kind of go over some of the things that we would want to present to you guys and what's coming up in some of these podcasts. And we want to give you guys some tips on how to prepare for a disaster that could come your way. And so you at least have some tools. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to our podcast, A Life Prepped. It's a great honor to be with you. Um, Great honor to be with Daniel and with David. My name is Daniel Bora. How are you guys doing?
Yeah,
Doing
good,
great.
good. Welcome back, Donnie.
In this episode, we wanted to kind of continue with a few more topics before we sort of jump into specific, more specific topics. So, well, we wanted to kind of go over some of the things that we would want to present to you guys and what's coming up in some of these podcasts and really we want to give you guys some tips on how to prepare for a disaster that could come your way, and so you at least have some tools. That's what we're passionate about. So as you might have heard in the last episode, this podcast is about getting families or individuals prepared for any disaster that may come your way. So all right, guys. Do you guys have anything to comment on before we kind of jump into it?
Well, well, I guess there's a lot of things going on right now in the world. All kinds of things that could be coming our way. With the elections are almost here. There's some crazy storms and disruptions.
Strikes.
Yeah. So when we were in Romania, went there for a little while, and man, there was all kinds of crazy stuff happening here while we were away. So it's kind of hard to do everything from remote stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think everybody should get ready now, and the whole family to kind of know what to do. To not be surprised, like one of those. Oh man, like everything's out. We didn't get the stuff. Right now, people are scrambling. They're grabbing a bunch of toilet paper again. Um, Instead of getting essentials, people are buying toilet paper. I mean, it's funny how mob mentality works. It's
It's
Yeah,
worrisome.
yeah. So I think we want to definitely cover in a few steps that you and your family can take. Any kind of storm, any kind of emergency that could happen, whether man-made or what otherwise, doesn't catch you by the surprise. So that's what this episode is going to be about. And let's jump right into it. We're going to go over some steps. Obviously, this is not going to be meant. This is not meant to be a super comprehensive. We're not going to be able to cover all the details, but hopefully, we can give you a few steps, and then we can guide you to some other resources out there that are available for you and your family to jump. Is that cool, guys?
yeah. No, let's
Good
let's
idea.
get some pointers and let's go over a few of the categories that everybody should look around their house and kind of assess their situation. So I would say, obviously, they say you can only go without oxygen for very small amount of time. The shelter definitely is important, but everybody hopefully is okay with the shelter. So you have a house or some kind of structure that's protecting you. And then obviously the next one would be water. You can't really go too long without water, so that's a huge one, and that goes by really quickly. I mean, again, you have to figure out it's not just drinking it, but cooking with water, washing, uh, toilet stuff, everything. It's all water. I mean, we're made up. Ourselves is made up a huge percentage of water. So
70%.
yeah, you gotta like always. That's something you gotta always replenish.
Okay.
So we're saying about a minimum of 1 gallon per day per person. So there you go. You
Minimum.
got a minimum.
Let's do a quick overview over some of the steps, and then we'll kind of come back at each one and dive deeper. Does that sound good?
Yeah. Sure, sure,
Because
sure.
that
Oh
way
yeah.
the
Of
audience can
course.
kind of get an overview, and then we can come back.
Of course. Of course. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Let me just go over some of the content. So we got water, then food. Obviously, that's a very important one. Light source. Again, if the power goes out and it's at, in the evening, the whole family's gonna kind of, you know, freak out a little bit. If none of the devices are working, you can't watch anything, you know, online, TV is out, everything's out. So then that's another, you have to have some kind of light source. At least so it's not dark, like once night starts, especially if you have kids, they don't, I don't think they like darkness.
Darkness.
So that would be very important. Backup power. You don't have power in the house, your cell phone is going to run out of batteries. Then you can't call people, you can't do anything. You're stuck, without communication. So that's another big one. So batteries and a way to charge all your systems. We got medical supplies. That would be, just in case an emergency happens while you're there and you can't run out, or some of the facilities are not available because they're out of power too. You want to have something that's, basic stuff. Your pets, if you have pets, everybody loves their pets, so you got to make sure they're taken care of too, because that can become really stressful if they don't have what they need. So those are some of the, just basic things that, I mean, there's a lot more stuff. If it depends on, I guess I would say, depends on the length of the power outage, because once things go for longer periods of time, there's all kinds of complications happening. So, but yeah, I would
Yeah,
say
like
those are the
since
main.
what was that? Like 8 days without power is when people lose their minds,
Yeah,
and
we were just talking to another
then
prepper.
other problems arise then because people are looting and losing, thinking there's no consequence for their actions and everything. So
Yeah,
that can become a threat to your family as well.
All right. So I think you said the first thing is water. We're going to talk about that. Then food, medicine. Okay. First aid.
yeah,
Shelter
then we
you
got,
already talked about. So that's number five. You
yeah,
said for security and protection. You mentioned that in there. Number six. Number seven, bug out. I think you didn't go over that, but bug out. I have that in my notes. Bug out bags. We'll talk
yeah,
about that. Is that good? And then we
yeah,
want to talk about maybe a shopping list that you should have available. Um, some skills that are important during these times of crisis. Bartering skills, and then
Yeah.
yeah,
mental preparedness, right? And
yeah.
mental health, right? That's what you guys just mentioned right now. Okay, so let's dive into each one a little bit deeper now. We're just for you folks that are kind of joining us. The guidelines that we're going to kind of focus on are actually covered in our manual, our survival manual. We actually have a published manual called the Essential Guide for Family Guide Your Families Must Have in Order to Survive the Next Disaster. So we'll kind of share that with you and some of the main content there, but we'll also make it available for you to purchase and have it for your family. So this is kind of a um, high view of this. So all right, you guys, let's talk about the water.
Obviously, if water is contaminated, or something happens where you're just not getting water in your sink, then you have to figure out, do I have enough water stored, in um, different containers, or however you wanted to store them. But then if that runs out, or you don't have it, you have a way to collect it and filter it from the outside. So water is everywhere because, from the rain, from there's a pond nearby. swimming pool. I mean, there's all kinds of water source. So you want to like kind of, when you're walking around your home and outside of your yard and the vicinity of your neighborhood, look for water sources. That's something I would say is very important to know where they are.
So you're saying basically identify near you some water sources. I
Yeah,
didn't even think about pools. That's a great point, and I think you'll explain why pools can become a source of water. Because right now we're thinking, well, it has chlorine. How could we use that?
Of
But I
course.
think you're going to go into how you can make it. So identify, basically, look around and see
yeah,
what you could have besides maybe. Sounds like besides your own things that you could do, like have barrels of water ready, right?
yeah. Of course, storage. Yeah.
Okay, so
Uh,
can you go into that a little bit deeper about the storage part, real quick? Because that's it sounds to me like that's something you can control right now.
Yeah. So maybe everybody has a little bit of like a few water bottles, but I would say, you can get bigger containers, and there's all kinds of ways to store them. I mean, there's some ideas in the manual that you can look up, different storage, and you want to make sure that it's, airtight so bacteria doesn't get into it.
So
There's
what's an example of a container that you suggest?
um
Like a barrel, a plastic barrel, or what? A
Food
metal?
grade.
yeah, we
Food
have
grade
food grade.
plastic barrel.
Yeah. There's these things that, for example, you can get off marketplace, or places like some stores. They will sell food barrels. We got a bunch of 58-gallon food barrels they used to carry olives, and it's very sturdy, very safe as far as the plastic that's used. You don't want to use like cheap plastic stuff, because it's gonna leak into the water, the plastics.
Okay, that's a good point. So do you guys recommend metal barrels?
It could be, but then you got the rust, or any kind of.
Yeah.
There are
Aluminum. Aluminum can leak into your water
Uh
as
huh.
well.
So you're basically saying it's got to be plastic if you're gonna
It
go
doesn't
for.
have to be. I'm sure there's ways to store it in
Glass would be
other.
great.
Yeah, glasses would be the best, but again, that's hard to like store a lot into a glass without, and it's
Okay.
heavy.
So you basically want heavy duty plastic. Sounds like that's BPA. It's not gonna leak into your water, right?
Yeah, BPA free. That would be the best.
Okay. All right. And I guess in the manuals we'll probably list some options for the barrels.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Sounds good.
And then there's systems of collection, of water collection, and there's some things on our website that you could you know there's ways to collect water system, like
Okay.
water from the rain. Yeah.
So
Like
David.
rain collector.
So basically, you want to have right there. There's some problems with just having water sitting around. It's not as easy as having a barrel in your garage, right? So you're saying that's not necessarily the easiest solutions. And even if you do have water, you might need more, right? So then the other solution, that's what you're saying, identify other sources of water because you could run out of the barrel. That
Exactly.
barrel could go bad for drinking,
Exactly.
so you got to be prepared. So in my situation, I actually have a lake nearby, and you're saying that could be a great source, but
Yeah,
how?
you're in a good position. Yeah, that's awesome. Not everybody has that kind of water source, a creek or something
Okay,
going by.
so tell us about that. Like if I have a pool, neighbor has a pool, so what? I mean, it has chlorine. What would
Well,
besides washing myself, I could drink it, or what are you saying?
of course, but you would have to buy a filter that filters out all that, and you want to get one that's not power. Like, again, powers out, so you don't want to. It's not going to be your refrigerator filtration or something that's powered by electric. So you want to get like a free flow gravity filter where you just pour that water in. I mean, you can get it from puddles, whatever. You just pour it in. That's a Berkey filter. That's the one we use, and we've been using for years. It works great, and it does over how many gallons was it? Yeah, 6,000 gallons.
6,000 gallons on
Yeah,
the
before you have
filter.
to replace the filter. I mean, 6,000
Well,
gallons, that's
if
quite a bit.
you're using chlorinated, like heavy chlorine, bunch of chemicals in the pool of water, it's gonna waste. It's gonna be less than 6,000 gallons because you're putting a lot of process through those filters. But either way, I mean, it's gonna do the job.
So I would
Okay.
say if you had to get one item right now, get a Berkey filter or something similar to that.
Okay, so essentially, those are the two things we want people to remember: a Berkey filter and sounds like some kind of storage option for water. Correct?
Yeah, and water collection system.
Okay. Okay. Go over that. Like
That's
what?
it's like different ways. There's tarps. There's you can put it in your on your rooftop. You can have somebody just make the gutters like flow the water into a barrel. That's what we have at the cabin,
Okay,
for example.
but that assumes that there is going to be rain or something.
Yeah, yeah, of course. You might have to wait a couple of days or
Okay,
so to get some.
so you can't rely on that as a collection. That could be a chance there might be rain, but if there's no rain, you really need to have
Yeah,
existing water sources that you can
yeah,
transform into drinkable water, etc. Right?
yeah. And there's parks that have some kind of creek going through. There's so again, when you walk around your neighborhood, or you can even look it up. Um, where's the quickest? What's the nearest little water source, whatever, wherever you're at. Now there is one more that's interesting. It's the water boiling system, like the where it heats your water. You can get water out of there too. It's in your house all the time. So
Okay,
that's a pretty big tank right there.
the boiler.
Yeah,
So you're not going to have hot water for a shower, but you're going to have water to drink to survive. So it's a
And you can
trade-off.
obviously always boil water. That does that get rid of most? Does that make it drinkable?
Not necessarily. In if it's from outside source, it could be more contaminants. But yeah, generally it'll kill most of the things. So
I think there's some ways you can filter it with like coffee filters, and then you boil it. It's a longer
if
process.
you go to our YouTube channel, you'll see one of our friends actually built a system like just out of regular things from Home Depot, and it's very cheap. You can build the system like it's a
A few
filtration
bucks.
system in a bucket, and then it'll filter everything.
Yeah, but I mean, it sounds like you don't want to get stuck with some kind of makeshift. You want to be prepared ahead of time with at least a Berkey filter. Sounds like, and you need to probably have a water source like a barrel already. You don't want to
Yeah.
try and figure it out then. You don't even know if you have internet to watch a
Oh, of
video
course.
online. So
No,
you
this is the time, my
this
friends.
is the
You
time.
got to get it now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. So those are great tips. Let's keep going here. The number two things we talked about fuel for survival, which is food. So let's go into that.
Yeah. Now, this depends on every family has, their favorite foods or whatever. So, you want to get some of that too, where people actually like the food, that they're eating, not just some crazy, boring MREs. And you want it to be nutritious, so that it's, pound for pound, you're getting the best, uh, bang for the buck. And we have some great options, listed that you could get through, go through and kind of pick your favorites or whatever you think is kind of. Some people have, certain special diet requirements. You got to think of that too. Yeah, I would say dry, anything that's dry, like dry beans, dry rice. You can combine those two and have the essential. If you combine beans and rice, you have all the essential proteins, that those two together. So I have like big bags of dry beans, big bags of dry rice. You just have to make sure you get like not brown rice, because that has more fatty, it's more fatty, and it goes rancid faster. So, and then you got very dry pasta, cans. I mean, I used to look on the the date and throw them out if they were expired. Then I did a little research, and as long as the air didn't get in the cans and it's not bloated, and when you open it up, it overall looks okay, tastes okay, and smells okay. Canned food lasts for years and years after their expiration date, so you can't go wrong with any kind of canned foods.
So basically, stocking up on non-perishable foods, and you kind of went over that. Um,
And there's a
Another
few
thing,
things that last very, I mean, forever almost. There's certain fats, or like coconut oil lasts for a very long time. Honey lasts
Honey.
forever. So yeah, there's a you can research what foods are longest shelf stable for a long time.
so I mean, honey is a good point. I understand it has essential nutrients, basically for life. Like it's a
Yeah,
really good source, right?
you can go on for a while with just honey and water.
And it's also that's interesting. This God-made honey is amazing, right? And it cures other things or helps with illness as well.
Right.
But it has a lot of nutrients. Okay, very good.
Apart from having food that just sustains you, you should have some foods that you actually like for boosting your morale. Even if it's not the healthiest or whatever, have some chocolates, for the kids, and have some stuff, because if you're just eating like just some powdered meals that are
Yeah.
you're getting from some place, and you're gonna get really sick of it really fast, and it's gonna be very depressing. I mean, we live in America and everybody loves food here. I mean, everybody, everywhere in the world, people love food, but we are big consumers of food and of the foods that we like. And then all of a sudden, you're going to be in a situation where everything's very limited, and you're eating like weird, Franken food. And you're like, I'm not used to this stuff. It messes with your mind.
I
Um,
mean, that's a good point because, we don't think about morale during
yeah.
that time, right? You're like, oh, we just got to survive. But like you said, when you have kids, morale's probably one of the biggest things in survival.
And chocolate doesn't go bad, even though it becomes a little whitish on the surface. It doesn't go bad.
So let's say we don't have any power. How would you cook? You can't warm things up. You can't
That's
boil anything.
another that's another great point. Yeah, because if the natural gas goes out, or you have electric, that's out. So it depends what kind of stove you have. Electric will usually go out faster than natural gas. So um, but even natural gas, they eventually they're gonna run out of, because they're running it on generators too at the power plant. So if that runs out, then you have to do it. Have basically the grill outside. If you have propane, you can grill outside. There's these awesome portable,
butane.
small grills that
Camping stoves.
yeah, and those are awesome. We use them at the farmers markets, before, everywhere. You can do it
We just
inside,
did it this past
outside.
weekend.
Yeah,
Remember?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
so you basically, it's a good idea to have sort of a spare butane if you
yeah,
do have a small
Yeah.
stove, or if you have propane, maybe
yeah,
maybe leave aside a propane tank that's not used, right?
yeah, 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 yeah. Definitely.
So
That's another type of fuel.
you can buy like these. I don't know if this is the right size. So they're like like I don't know how big they're, like probably like 16-ounce cans of butane, and you can buy them in packs, and they last like 4 hours. So you can do a lot of cooking with those.
Yeah, you can
Uh,
boil water. You can do all kinds of stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's a great point. So that does make you pretty much grid free if you don't have
And
a lot.
then we got something we used before, is the
That was
Go
cool.
Sun. It's actually powered by the sun, and you put a bunch of whatever potatoes. You got potatoes, meat, whatever you want. You put it in there. It's a tube, so it's basically like a tube that sets up with this solar
Reflection.
reflection. Yeah, and it gets really really hot. It's it cooks you grill. It's like making shish kebabs, in a tube, and all you have to do
And
is
we
have
did it in
sunlight.
40-degree weather. It was in the wintertime, and we made food.
Yeah, it came out great.
Yeah,
So
Wow,
that's like
no
that's
joke.
great.
that's no
Yeah,
fuel at
no,
all.
we'll put a picture of that here in the description because that is a unique. I was shocked to see that that thing works.
We have a video of it
Yep, and it's a
working.
very simple concept. Yeah, I was very surprised that that's something like that could work, but it's that's amazing. So
And
okay,
the sun was not powerful. I'm saying it wasn't like
yeah,
summertime powerful. It was just
Yeah.
like it was in the distance, but it was there and it cooked the stuff. It took a little longer, but you have food cooking. That's what matters.
yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so those are great tips. That's also in our manual goes much deeper into it, into these sources and options that you have. So let's just move on here, David and Dan. We're going to talk about the next thing is medicine. So that's important, right? Because especially when you have kids around you, you got to have medicine. Let's talk about that.
So of course you want to have a first aid kit, a nice one, and you should be able to know how to use it. That's another thing. Some of these kits are really awesome. They can you can treat like very big injuries, gunshot wounds, huge accidents, big gashes of cuts. But that's one of the things you want to know how to use all those, the tourniquet, certain things, and there's great videos on that. So or you could take a class. um, so that's first aid, emergency. There's also bleed stop, which it's something that, for example, my dad cut himself working on the car, a very very deep cut right and on his, close to the wrist, right on the inside of, like right around here,
Yeah.
and it just missed an artery, missed, like nerves and stuff like that. So thank God for that. But it was bleeding, and what do you do? So one thing that we have at my parents' house and here is the thing called bleed stop. It's a powder. They just put it on if and it'll coagulate your blood very quickly. So that's just something that you just should have somewhere, and everybody should know where that's at, because you don't know, that can
So
happen.
I wanna talk about that more in the next the next section, which is first aid. But I
Okay.
want to focus on medicine. So
Oh,
obviously, the first
medicine.
thing you
Yes.
should have stocked up on medicine in your cabinet, right? Things that maybe you need for the kid. You should have that anyway, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we have a lot of medicine in the cabinet just for any, so I don't have to run to the store every time. But when that store is not available, do you have ideas? What should you have in your cabinet
Well,
available as far as
yeah,
medicine?
we're actually thinking about that, and that's one of the biggest problems, because like for example, antibiotics, that has to be prescribed by a doctor, then you have to go to the pharmacy, pick it up. If that stuff's not available, people can die of an infection. So that's huge. Antibiotics, somehow, if you can get yourself, some supplies of antibiotics. Now there are some natural ones like oregano oil, and they're quite effective on certain
They're
infections.
more effective than some antibiotics. So
Yeah. So there are natural ways. There's a herbal section in our manual that deals with certain aspects of this that you could get. Now there's also obviously, if you have somebody in the family that has diabetes, they have certain conditions that they have to have the regular stuff. Get an extra, if you can, get extra doses of those. That's because that's life, their life depends on that. And then with the power sources, this kind of ties into the medical stuff, because if somebody is on some kind of they have one of those heart monitors, oxygen tanks, whatever, and it's plugged in, power goes out, that's a huge problem. And I know that's happened where people die because if power was out for a long time. So you want to maybe look into, if you have that kind of condition where things are plugged in for medical. Let's say you have an older person in the house or whatever, and they're depending on some machines. You want to make sure you have a backup generator to power those machines for their health.
Okay.
And then there's allergy, allergic reactions that can be very threatening and dangerous. If you should have some kind of, allergy counteractive ready to,
Benadryl and yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Um, so it's really important if somebody in your household has some condition that needs to be treated constantly, you should have extra stuff on hand because
yeah,
probably in an emergency you're not going to be able to go get that prescription for them. You should
exactly,
always have something extra. I don't know, maybe they have a heart condition or diabetes or something, and
yeah,
you you can't just have just enough in your house. You should always have extras. I know my dad is dealing with diabetes, and I have some other friends that do, and you can't expect to go to the pharmacy during that time.
I know, yeah,
And there's probably much more severe conditions. This is a very, if you have some kind of heart disease and stuff. So you should prepare for that and have things extra available, especially
yeah,
in those, if you have those people around you. That's all the time we have for today on A Life Prepped. However, remember, whether you're a seasoned prepper or just getting started, Life Prepped is here to help you be prepared for anything in any emergency. For more tips, tricks, and expert advice, head on over to our website at lifeprep.com. Also, please don't forget to subscribe to our social media channels. We'd really love to hear your thoughts on today's episode. Also, join the conversation or continue the conversation using the hashtag LifePrepped. Till next time, have a great day.